Have you ever been confused by a nutrition label on food? Either trying to figure out why it's there or looking at it and looking at the different sections and percentages and trying to figure out what in the heck all of it means? Well, either way, trust me, you are not alone. I know that we all want to use the best information that's available to help us get fit from the inside out. And a nutrition label is actually designed to do just that. But when you pick it up and everything there is so confusing, then what good does it do? I mean, it really shouldn't be this hard to try to be healthy. I'm Lacey Stevens with Fit by 50 Plus, and I know exactly how you feel. Before my dad had his heart attack in 2000, I didn't know that nutrition labels even existed. But when he did have his heart attack, I didn't have a choice. I had to take a look, I had to learn, and I had to be right. Because at that point, we weren't trying to reduce risk factors for heart disease. We were trying to dial him back because he'd already had a heart attack. The factors were there, they had already made a difference. We were trying to do everything we could really to prolong his life. So what I want you to do is just give me a couple minutes. I'm going to go through a couple of nutrition labels pretty quickly because the information, it's not really involved, but you've got to know the information. So what I'm asking for is just a few minutes of your time. I'm going to go through just a couple of nutrition labels. I'm going to go through those relatively quickly. And when you get that information, you will be off to the races because a nutrition label it's meant to help you make healthy food choices. It's going to give you the nutrition information that you need about that food. But those labels can also help you to monitor key nutrients like fat, which is going to include saturated fat, and trans fats, which are the bad fats. It will help you to monitor cholesterol, sodium, sugar, and guess what all of those are? All of those are nutrients that can affect risk factors that lead to heart disease. So once you get the information, you will be equipped to take another step in reducing your risk factors for heart disease. So we are going to go ahead and get started. I am going to share my screen real quick and we'll be off to the races. Now that I've got my screen shared, here we go. Here are the first two labels. The label on the left is an original label, and the label on the right is a newer label. Because in 2016, the FDA, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, passed a rule basically telling manufacturers that they needed to update the labels on the packaged foods. Well, depending on what category the manufacturer falls into, they have a little bit more time to get that update made. And I believe the final update is around July of 2021. So by July of 2021, or somewhere around there, all the nutrition labels on the foods, the packaged foods, the prepared foods should look like the label on the right. Until then, we're going to look at both because it's very possible that you could run into either one. So the first thing we are going to take a look at is the serving size. The serving size is the amount of food considered to be one serving. And so here the serving size is 2/3 of a cup. So if I had 2/3 of a cup of this food, then that's one serving. And for each one serving, each 2/3 of a cup, I am going to eat 230 calories. I'm going to have 8 grams of fat. I won't have any cholesterol, but there will be 160 milligrams of sodium. I'll have 37 grams of carbs, 12 grams of sugar. There'll be 4 grams of dietary fiber, 12 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of protein. And then I'll have the vitamins, the A, C, calcium, and iron that's listed below. That is for each 2/3 of a cup that I eat. Now, something that you can't see, I'm going to see if I can move that. There are 8 servings per container here. So if you took this container and you took 2/3 of a cup, we know that it's 230 calories in the rest of the nutritional information. But if you ate two servings, if you ate two-thirds cup servings, now you've just gone from 230 calories to 460 calories. And for each two-thirds of a cup serving that you eat, you're adding 230 calories. So let's get back. So that's the serving size, two-thirds of a cup. So calories, 230 calories. A calorie really is a unit of measure. A calorie measures energy. It's the amount of energy that's in that food. So for each two-thirds of a cup portion that you eat, or two-thirds of a cup serving that you eat, you are getting 230 units of energy. We always have to be careful, though. If we take in too many calories or too much energy, our body will store it for later. It typically stores it as fat. So just a word to the wise. But that's what a calorie is. And that's in each portion that you take in. 230 calories, 230 units of energy in each portion. Now, let's go to the percent of daily value. This is where I've seen people really struggle, and it's for a very good reason. The percent daily value really is it represents how much of a nutrient, and really we've got it right here in this yellow. It's how much of a nutrient in each serving the food contains that contributes to a total daily allowance of 2,000 calories. And this is where it really gets specific. All the labels are going to be based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. So if I eat 2,000 calories per day, 2,000 calories per day is my maximum allowance for calories. Then when I see 12%, that is 12% of my 2,000 calories. It starts to get interesting if you eat fewer or more than 2,000 calories per day. So when you see these nutrition labels in the United States, these percentages, the percent daily value is always going to be based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. Now, the total fat, and total fat is just the total of all the different types of fat in each serving of food. So here we've got 8 grams of total fat. And the total of 8 grams includes 1 gram of saturated fat. And it does not include any trans fat. Now, saturated fats are usually solid at room temperature. Just so you know, they're usually solid at room temperature. They are found naturally in a lot of foods, like the fattier meats, cheeses, lard, butter, milk, whole milk products. Those usually will contain saturated fats. Some plant-based oils like palm oil, palm kernel oil, coconut oil, those will also contain saturated fats. So just be sure that you know what your maximum amount for saturated fats is for a day. Trans fats are actually found in a lot of fried foods and baked goods like pizza dough, cookies, crackers, pastries. So something else too, trans fats in amounts that are half a milligram, 0.5 milligrams or less, don't have to be recorded. So they wouldn't necessarily, if I only had 0.4 of a gram of trans fat, then the manufacturer can put that there's no trans fat in that particular food. So 0.5 grams of trans fat or less looks like 0. But you can tell, all you have to do is check the ingredients list. So you would look for something like partially hydrogenated oil. If you see that, then you know that even though it's not at least half a gram of trans fat or more, there is a little bit there. So that's just a word to the wise. But if you have issues with your cholesterol, definitely be sure to check with your doctor, your healthcare provider for specific guidance. If you are working to lower your cholesterol like I am, then the American Heart Association recommends that you work to eliminate trans fat altogether and that you try to cap your saturated fat at about 13 grams per day. Now, here's the caveat again. That is based on a 2,000 calorie per day diet. So if you eat fewer than 2,000 calories per day or more than 2,000 calories per day, that's going to change. But not all fat is bad. So I've got so on this particular nutrition label, you see polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat. Well, those are good fats. Not all labels will show the polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. I believe that the requirement to list these is only for foods that make a claim for being a certain level of health. Those are the foods that would have to list this. Otherwise, you probably won't necessarily see it. But monounsaturated fat is usually found in canola oil, olive, peanut, safflower, sesame oils. When you think of those, they're liquid at room temperature. But avocados, nuts, seeds, peanuts, those are all good sources of monounsaturated fats. Now, polyunsaturated fat can actually help to lower bad cholesterol, and it actually provides necessary nutrients for your cells in your body. But when you think of sources for polyunsaturated fat, think corn oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, walnuts, sunflower seeds, soybeans, tofu. Those are all good sources of polyunsaturated fat. Now, just know this, regardless of the fat type, whether it's good or bad, fat contains 9 calories per gram rather than 4 calories per gram. So don't think that just because this is good for me, and I'm one of those people who had to learn that the hard way. I love pecans. I love almonds. I love sunflower seeds. So I could sit and eat those all day. Well, that's a lot of calories. It's good fat, but it's a whole lot of calories. So just a word to the wise. So now let's take a look at the cholesterol. Cholesterol is one of the, or high cholesterol anyway, is one of the modifiable risk factors for heart disease. What happens with cholesterol? Your body actually produces all the cholesterol that it needs. So when we take in foods that also contain cholesterol, then depending on how our body handles it, we could be running the risk of increasing our cholesterol. Cholesterol is typically found in meats, full fat dairy, and poultry products. So just know, for me, I am very conscious of that because that is the risk factor that I have been most aware of my entire life. But I do pay attention to all of the risk factors that could lead to heart disease. This particular food does not have any cholesterol, which is a good thing. So sodium, 160 milligrams of sodium. A lot of people believe that salt is really the only source of sodium, and actually that's not true. There are tons of packaged foods that contain sodium. So be sure, especially if you have issues with high blood pressure, if you're looking to make sure that your blood pressure stays as normal as possible, take a look at the sodium levels in the foods that you're eating. And as a general rule, the American Heart Association recommends eating no more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium per day. That's just a general rule. But their suggestion is to try to lower that to a maximum of 1,500 milligrams of sodium per day. That is the max that I stay at every day. I don't go over 1,500 milligrams of sodium. And when you make it a habit to keep your sodium levels low, then it could play a role in keeping your blood pressure in check as well. So this 160 milligrams of sodium in one serving of this food would go towards the 1,500 milligram per day maximum. Now let's take a look at the total carbs. Carbs really are your body's preferred primary source of fuel. And that's the preferred primary source. There are some people who have trained their bodies to run off basically a very few number of grams of carbs per day. But know that there's a certain amount of carbs that your body needs. There's a maximum amount really that your body needs. And it's one of those individual things. But when you consume more carbs than your body burns, it can definitely lead to weight gain over time. But carbs are found in fruits, vegetables, legumes, grains, and a lot of processed foods. It all goes and counts towards that same maximum, the same allowance that you have for carbs in a day. Now, the dietary fiber. Dietary fiber is beneficial to you. Dietary fiber can help lower your blood glucose. It can help with your cholesterol levels. It can help make you feel full, which would help you to reduce your calorie intake. So when you see the dietary fiber there, that's a good thing. You want that unless you have some type of dietary restriction that precludes you from dietary fiber. But in the same vein, using the nutrition label will help you to identify that and keep whatever that number is in check. Sugar is the amount that occurs naturally in foods like fruits and milk, but in the label on the left, it also includes added sugar. So if you look at the label on the left and the label on the right, for the most part, everything else was the same coming down the label until we got to the sugar. So the sugar is still there. On this next one, we see on the newer labels that in this particular food, the 12 grams of sugar actually includes 10 grams of added sugar. So what that says to me is that whatever this food is, there are 2 grams per serving. There are about 2 grams of sugar that is natural, that is native to that particular food. Now, as far as added sugars go, the American Heart Association, I believe the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, both recommend limiting the added sugar to about 25 grams per day for most women and 36 grams per day for most men. And this is the added sugar. Unless you're looking at one of the newer labels, you don't know the amount of added sugar because it's actually being included in the total sugar in the original labels. But just know that once all manufacturers have come into compliance, which should be around July of 2021, then you'll be able to look at the label and see the added sugar that is in each serving of food. Okay, protein, animal products, plant-based products, poultry, eggs, seafood, legumes, nuts. Those are all going to be good sources of protein, and our bodies definitely do need protein. This particular food has 3 grams of protein in each 2/3 of a cup serving. So you eat 2 servings, you take the protein, you multiply it by 2, you've got 6 grams of protein. And that leads us to the vitamins and minerals. Now, at a minimum on the new labels, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium will be required by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Manufacturers can choose to include other vitamins and minerals, but they've got to include these that are here, the vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. So you see in the original nutrition label, you see vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, and iron. Well, you could see almost anything there in the original label, but with the new standard for the new label, you have to see vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium. And if there are other vitamins and minerals, then those would also be listed as well. So that's a nutrition label, folks. That's everything. Just know that nutrition labels are really an excellent tool to help make healthy, informed decisions about food. And that's what they're there for. And so now that you see it, you're like, oh, this is crystal clear. But the labels do also provide a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that will allow you to monitor key nutrients like the fat, cholesterol, sodium, and sugar that can affect risk factors for heart disease. This was just basic nutrition label on food. I've got one more nutritional guide here. This is fast food, Wingstop. I love Wingstop. I've highlighted my favorite wing. Take a look. So we see Cajun, and you see the serving size. It's 2 jumbo wings, and these are the bone-in wings. So for each 2 wings, there's 8 grams of fat, no sugar, No, 1 gram of carbs, 142 calories, 15 grams of protein, 270 milligrams of sodium, 1 gram of fiber, 76 calories from fat. You see that there are 2 grams of saturated fat, no trans fat, and 69 milligrams of cholesterol. Now that is for each 2 wings. Say you eat 10 wings. You'd have to take every one of these nutrition information pieces and multiply it by 5, because we basically, if we ate 10 wings, we'd have 5 servings. So we'd have to multiply the fat by 5. So now we'd be at 40 grams of fat. Still no sugar, but 4 grams of carbs. We'd have to take 142 calories and multiply it by 5. So that's why I say, when you, just because you think, oh, this food, it's small, chicken is good for you, gives you lots of protein, and it does, because here we've got 15 grams of protein per serving. We multiply that by 5, we've got 75 grams of protein. But when you take a look at the other categories, we know that the sugar is not going to have a big effect. But when you take a look at the fat, you've got 40 grams of fat in 5 servings, and you'd have 10 grams of saturated fat. Well, if your goal for the day is no more than 13 grams of saturated fat, if you eat 5 servings of these wings, of this particular flavor of wing, then you only have 3 grams of saturated fat remaining for the day. That, my friend, is how you read a nutrition label. Now you are completely equipped, ready to go out and, keep the factors in check. Keep a special eye on the fat, the sugar, the carbs, the sodium, because we know that all of those can lead to risk factors for heart disease, as well as the calories. Don't ever sleep on the calories, because calories, you take in too many calories, your body stores the calories for you as fat. Over time, it could lead to obesity. And guess what? Obesity is another one of the risk factors for heart disease. So when you look at a nutrition label, really you are completely equipped to modify the modifiable risk factors. You're in a position to control what you can control when it comes to heart disease. And food plays a really critical role. So I will get on through the end of this and say thank you. And I will unshare my screen. So I really do appreciate the time. Because at Fit by 50 Plus, we want 3 things for you. We want you to be informed. And when you are equipped with this type of information, you're definitely informed. And it allows you to be intentional about the strategies that you create around food to make sure that you are keeping those key risk factors, the modifiable risk factors, in check. And most of all, we want you to be in good health. And this right here is a foundation for anybody, regardless of age, to start getting fit from the inside out. If this video helped you, or you know someone that you think it might help, hit the like button below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And please leave me a comment. I would love to know what you think. Thank you.